What is up, everybody? You are listening, you are watching to the Constant Elevation Podcast. I'm your host, Gabe Rock, actually in my house this week. Check this out. We still have my background nerdery wall. If you didn't know, this is this art piece right here is actually from my homie Gilbert from high school. This is Batman Purple Rain. This is Enter the 36 Chambers, one of the greatest albums ever made. Beat Street, I got that. That's a laser disc. I had that as a going away gift. I got Spider-Man dunking on Venom, and then I also have some Evangelion artwork here. So random fact, but that's what's going on in my new office. And so very happy to be back here. Long 2 weeks on the road. I'm actually going on the road next week, and so looking forward to that. Speaking of that, I wanted to show some pretty cool merch that I'm working on. I got these, if you're watching on YouTube anyway, got these sweet, can you see this? How did my daughter do this? I'm not going to do it right. Oh, there we go. Constant Elevation, Can't Stop, Won't Stop stickers. And so it'll probably have to be image flip or something like that when I do the video on this. But in any case, if you're going to DeFitic next week in Montgomery, Alabama, you may not see that Zap on a bunch of places because I do what I want. And so, but I'll figure out exactly if I was going to start a online store. Just if you are interested in getting some Constant Elevation merch, please leave a comment either on the podcast or the YouTube channel down below, and I'll see what I can do on that piece. And so it's always kind of fun to stay creative in this space. So, and merch is the thing, and you can also support the channel like that. So, very, very fun to be home. But yes, finally here. It has been crazy here in yesterday and today, at least in Florida here. The storms have been crazy. We're just getting used to, I think this is just nice Florida weather. And so the lightning and thunder and rains have been kind of crazy. The wifey actually, she's been telling me about how her school has been on, what do you call it? They've had a shelter in place, and like there's rules. It's definitely different from Alaska. In Alaska, when you live there, if it's snowing or if it's actually, let me say it, in Florida, since we've been living here, if there's lightning within anything or rains or storms, at least in the school that my wife works at, everybody panics. It's like, no, we can't do anything. We have to protect the kids and make sure that they can't go outside because they could be struck by lightning, or maybe Thor's gonna come down and hit them with a hammer or something weird. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. When we lived in Alaska, it'd be like, hey, it's snowing, noted. You have a 2-minute whatever. You're fine. Everybody's gonna be fine. We just live and you just learn how to deal with that piece. Florida doesn't seem like it's as risk averse, at least where we live, for at least where my wife works at the school. So it's an interesting piece as far as getting acclimated here again in Florida, but it is what it is. And I'm glad to be back and then hitting the road again next week. And so this week, what I want to talk about is actually a little bit, I started to think about it. My wife actually gave me the inspiration for this week's episode. And so she knows that I'm pretty passionate about coaching CrossFit. And so shout out to CrossFit Inclusion in Cocoa. Head coach Steve and the rest of the team have been an awesome team. I love being part of the morning crew. I call ourselves the day breakers, whatever it is. We get there at like 04:45. We get there, get the work done. Sometimes Coach Jason adds way too much accessory work that we may or may not need to do, but it's fine. We do it, and we're out of there by like 5:45, 6 o'clock. And so if you're ever in town, there is an expectation of performance. It's not necessarily for everybody, but I'm very, very happy to be a coach and the environment and the community that they have at CrossFit Inclusion. So shout out to them. But the inspiration for this week was really based on the idea of, came home and one of the weeks I was gone, we were on an exercise, and I noticed that like where we are trying to do certain things that the muscle memory is not built into what AFTAC does. As far as when I say by that is the doing no notice continuously operations exercises, as far as where we're going to be moving from. We don't do our operation here in Florida, we do it from somewhere else. And so those kind of pieces, the muscle memory is not quite there. And so as a military member, this is what we do, right? You understand exactly where your operation is, but if you need to be agile combat employment, you need to move it to somewhere else, you know how to just kind of shoot, move, communicate, and do it from another location. It seems pretty standard. However, AFTAC itself is very unique in some of the capabilities that we do. And so it's not as easy of a swing of operations. So like anything else, we have to practice it. And so that practice ends up coming and revealing experience levels that some of our teammates have or don't have. So I was sharing some of those lessons learned, or observations, I should say, with my wife, and she was like, "Well, it sounds like kind of like when you coach, because sometimes isn't it when you coach, you kind of your responsibility is to assign like the RX and scaled versions of a workout to make sure that the athlete actually knows what they're doing. I was like, look at you, babe. That's exactly what one of the things a coach should be doing. So that prompted this week's episode. So first, I'm going to talk about exactly one of the things I believe I'm capable of and really good at as a CrossFit level 3 trainer. If you didn't know, level 3. So the idea of understanding it's just understanding human nature. And part of it is learning how to engage with my athletes and just understanding where they're coming from on their fitness journey. And everybody maybe you're on day 2, maybe you're on day 200 or 2000. It doesn't really matter. My job as a coach is to understand where you're currently at here. And so some athletes come into the gym, they have a ton of experience, right? And so for me, if I happen to drop in at a different gym, I'll introduce myself, kind of give my background, and I'm pretty much a set and forget athlete. You don't have to watch everything I'm doing because I sort of know what I'm doing. And so for other athletes, especially in the CrossFit community, you may or may not know what's happening depending on what the workout is for the day. And so we have to make sure that we are coaching you appropriately. So you're not going to be unsafe. And 2, you're going to meet the intent of the workout. So oftentimes you're going to have, when you walk into a CrossFit gym, there's going to be some workout. And then the way it's designed as written is called RX, or prescribed. So the way that is for the average CrossFit athlete, again, that assumes you have a certain degree of physical capacity. They're going to have the workout and weights, and they'll have a certain weight chosen for the barbell. Could be 135 or 95 for the ladies and 135 for the fellas. You could have a 400-meter run with an expected time of like less than 2 minutes, I should say. And so these pieces where it's like there's a workout, and I as the coach understand what is the expected performance metric of each of these components. And then for me, what I have to do is I kind of have to take an inventory of all the athletes in the class and say, where are you at right now? Are you probably within that range? Yes. Are you just on the cusp of that range? And I think today would be a really good day to push it. I need to know those pieces. I need to know if this is beyond your range, and I need to scale the workout accordingly to make sure that you meet the intent of the workout. That's my responsibility as well. And so a good coach, it doesn't have to necessarily be CrossFit, but a good coach themselves will understand what the intent of the workout is and know how to scale the workout accordingly. Now, some people will be like, well, scale sounds like a bad thing. Sounds like you're just kind of weakening or making it less than what the actual workout is going to be. I don't personally think like that. I say that because I kind of, if you go into certain CrossFit boxes, you're going to hear the term leave your ego at the door. Don't get caught up on that. Don't get caught up on trying to chase exactly what the numbers are. And comparison is the thief of joy. I've said that before in some of my episodes. Some of those pieces, you're missing the intent and the big picture of what's going on. And so instead of saying scaled, I usually try to use the term tailored, right? I'm trying to tailor this workout for you to make sure you meet the intended workout. For instance, if we're doing a workout that's supposed to take you around 12 minutes, I would not allow you to do a portion of the workout where you're going to complete it in 26 minutes. The running piece is a pretty easy thing, right? If you're supposed to finish a 400-meter run in about less than 2 minutes, if you can't do that, I'm probably going to scale you to 200 meters to make sure you meet intent of the workout. And so, and I don't mind, and I think it's very important for the coach to make those, give that guidance to the athletes. There's definitely a difference between males and females. Spoiler, males are stupid. They will be like, no, I know what I'm doing. I've done CrossFit before. Have you? I've gotten burned by that before. Quick story. I was actually burned by a senior officer I worked with who claimed they did CrossFit. And I actually vouched for the senior officer back in Hawaii at CrossFit 808. Shout out to a head coach, Elise. And I was like, no, he's good. He said he did CrossFit. He did not know the shit about what he was doing. And and they're like, hey, so you said he was good, right? Like, he told me he was good. No, he was not good. He didn't know like just basic maneuvers and basic movement patterns. And so I felt embarrassed that I vouched for this guy. And so now I'm much more particular about like, oh, I've done CrossFit before. Have you? Tell me, let's talk a little bit more. And that's just a good coach in me trying to make sure that like, while I know your ego thinks you have done CrossFit, potentially you have not, and we need to have a good conversation. On the other side, females tend to be a little bit more conservative. They will actually kind of be like, they'll be first to say, I've never done this before. I've never climbed a rope since 4th grade. Okay, that's a very, very important data point, and we can coach you accordingly to make sure we meet you where you're at. But sometimes There's a little bit where like, well, I'm just comfortable doing 75 pounds. I'm like, you could do 85 though. I bet you could. And I tend to push my athletes, depending on who they are and where they're at, to make sure they're challenging themselves. It is important. And if I believe they're in that right mindset and the right level of conditioning, I'll kind of push them to just kind of challenge them, because you're only going to grow to the margins of your experience. And I truly believe that. And so you have to make sure that you're trying to challenge yourself every once in a while. So coaching workouts, as far as RX is scaled, it is the coach's responsibility to make sure you're tailoring the workout accordingly. All the way back to the earlier story I said about exercising as far as at work, as far as like exercising in the military. So as we started doing some of our contingency exercises, we went through some of our motions as far as trying to bring up operations. And I found that like some of our senior leaders were asking some of the junior airmen like pretty varsity level questions. They'd be like, hey, do you know what would happen here? What about this? What if we did this and did that? And it was in a public environment. And this airman this is the first time he may have even been TDY in his life. And he was getting all these ask these very advanced varsity level questions when he only has freshman level experience. And I felt really bad in that instance. I was like, you're not tailoring that exercise experience to that airman. You have to recognize he's a junior airman. He may or may not know what you're talking about. You as a senior officer know all these things, but it's not. And I've been a victim of the stump the dummy kind of game where like I've had a senior officer ask me, hey, so I'm telling you all the network statuses of this theater, and here's all the capabilities you have online. And then the officer was like, what about solar flares? I was like, sir, what about solar flares? How will a solar flare actually impact exactly what our network is? I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was a weird question that I don't know if he was trying to like cement his superiority, that he was better than me because he knew about some random science thing from the internet that I didn't know. It was very, very awkward, but in the middle, and this was during exercise as well, I felt like it was inappropriate. If you're going to be in a training environment, basically you just kind of pause the exercise and say, let's talk about these things. That's an appropriate time to have those kind of the challenging questions or something like that. And I'm not saying exercises in the military shouldn't be hard or challenging, but there's a difference, right? Similar to like in the gym. There's one thing for me to tell you, we're going to do in a 1 mile time trial. Okay, cool. If you haven't been running for like 5 years, a 1 mile time trial might feel like you're going to die. So maybe we're just going to see how far you can run in about 10 minutes. That's a good measurement to be like, I just want to see how far you're going to go. And then we test and measure it again to see if you can run farther in 10 minutes. That shows improvement, right? That shows that you are actually getting fitter wherever you're at. But I'm not going to make you do some kind of crazy test in the workplace or in the gym if you're not built to that capacity. So what I believe is, bringing to my third point, that takes a really good leader and a really good coach to recognize and have the context to just work with your teammates, understand where they're at, understand their history, understand the big picture of what we're trying to do, and find challenging things, but they're not necessarily unrecoverable, right? I mean, if you're going to get to someone where they're going to be exercising or doing something to the point where they're going to failure, depending on what we're talking about, that could actually be good, but like you need to be very, very selective of when those happen, because if they mentally will never recover from that and they just start giving up on themselves or giving up on their team, now you've gone too far. You've gone way past the edge, and no longer the training intent is no longer there. So it's up to you as the leader to make sure that you're not kind of burning out the team or going crazy high expectation for something that your team is not actually prepared to do. And so while it may feel good in the moment to try and challenge you, say, oh, everybody's going to do things RX. Everybody's going to do this most advanced kind of exercise. We're going to get after these things that are most important for the military under great power competition and all these jazz. It sounds really good, but in practice, it's probably a really terrible, shitty idea. So it's up to you as a good leader to make sure you check yourself before you wreck yourself. All right, team. So that was like kind of a long-winded story. Talked about a little bit about coaching, CrossFit between the RX and scale divisions, and then also applying it to the work. But I do believe those things match. I tend to use a lot of my coaching techniques in the gym to my coaching techniques in the workplace. Goes in the things of being able to just kind of leverage all the hats that you wear, because I think they all come with some really good advantages that you can present your authentic self in the workplace. So that is my pro tip for this week. All right, team. So next week I am going to be on the road in Montgomery. I'm probably not going to bring my camera equipment. So next time you see or hear me, you're going to, I'll probably be back here because we're heading into the long holiday weekend. So I wish everybody stays safe for travels if you're going anywhere. And yeah, looking forward to seeing my cyber teammates in Montgomery, Alabama next week. And then looking forward to, if you have any questions or you think we're going to be around here in Montgomery, or you want to drop a comment if this kind of subject matter you want me to cover, I'm happy to have those discussions. And yeah, always a good time here. All right, team. I'll see you. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone. And we'll see you next week. Peace.